Hi, and welcome to New Gods Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design. Issue 4 of New Gods, the beginning of the use of the term Fourth World, Kirby's Fourth World of the New Gods. Now, fandom and the readership really latched onto that name. It's become the catch-all term for all these series to this day. I think Kirby's initial intent was that New Gods be sort of the name of the whole, of all the different books. And the fact that the term Fourth World shows up in the fourth issues, makes there some debate as to the intent, that possibly it's like, this is Kirby's fourth world of the New Gods. And, this is Kirby's fourth world of the Forever People. So there's that possible interpretation. But, Fourth World has stuck. It's catchy. Fantastic Four is like his other big project, across the street. So, why not Fourth World? The number 4 means something to Kirby. Only 25 cents, bigger and better. So this is also the beginning of the larger 25-cent versions of Kirby's Fourth World books, which is pointed to as possibly one of the reasons for their early cancellation. That this was something DC was doing across the board, and it proved to be financially disastrous. Switching to 25 cents, making the book bigger, having more reprints and back matter, but they found that kids want to get as many comics as possible for their money. So if they have the choice between a 15-cent comic and a 25-cent comic, they're going to go with the 15-cent comic, even if you have extra content. And I also have to say, as a reader and a fan myself, where I'd be paying sometimes $3 for one of these issues, sometimes $5, sometimes $1, it varies, but, getting them as back issues, I gotta say, I was disappointed when I'd get one of these, thicker 25-cent issues, one of these bigger and better issues. I was disappointed that, the filler was like a lot of Golden Age stuff. It wasn't like more New Gods stuff. I want it to be like front to back Fourth World, even if it's like, maybe like a story of like a side character or whatever. I would be sort of disappointed. Like, how come every single page of this comic isn't New Gods? That's a fan talking. As a professional, I understand these things, but as a fan, it's like, give me all the New Gods I can get. To find the hiding place of evil gods, Orion plays the game of evil men, the Orion's mob and the Deep Six. Now that we've invaded Intergang, how do we get out alive? So this is a pretty interesting issue. It's issue 1 of New Gods is like one of the great issues. Issue 2, 3, and 4 are lesser, but each one has like enough really amazing stuff going on, to make them, really worthwhile. But it's issues 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that really gel, that like just they're firing on all cylinders, everything's working, and they're just classics. They're just, some of the greatest comics ever made, some of the greatest comics Kirby's ever made, and some of the greatest comics, that have just ever come out of the medium. But I mean, this issue's good, but next issue is where the, all-time great stuff starts happening. And it's a lot going on. It's all over the place, which isn't a bad thing. It's just like, it's kind of got this blend of, cosmic god, super sci-fi, which I love and I'm always there for. And then it's got some sort of, crime, gangster, noir kind of stuff going on, which I'm not as interested in, but I do understand that, you need to sort of strike balances in your work. And that sometimes I think that, like a story, a comic, whatever, a movie needs boring parts. It needs boring parts to make the exciting parts that much more exciting. So if this issue has some boring parts, it's perhaps for the good of the whole. So the issue opens with one of the great parts. It's this nice extended moment of just sort of pure sci-fi, pure exploration, like this sort of thing. It's kind of my favorite part of sci-fi, and you get moments like this throughout Star Trek, throughout Star Wars, throughout Jack Kirby's work. You get these little moments, and they're really great, but good guy versus bad guy conflict moments are a lot more plentiful in those works in Star Trek and Star Wars and Jack Kirby, and those parts are great. But this is sort of, this kind of pure exploration is very rare. It's really difficult to do. It's just difficult to come up with interesting settings, that for an interesting sort of sci-fi ideas. Coming up with conflict, which is a challenge in itself, is actually easier than this sort of thing. So Kirby's sort of created this whole new planet, a prehistoric planet that seems kind of like Earth but a little different. And Metron and his Mobius chair and Isak are there to sort of study it. And Metron is there, as a scientist, as sort of a super scientist, to study it, to learn about it, and possibly shape the destiny of this world. And then he's also bringing his apprentice Isak with him, so he can sort of teach him about it too. This motif gets repeated in the next issue too, where you sort of start off with a little Metron vignette. Metron's exploring some corner of the universe, and it sort of lines up thematically with the rest of the issue, but it doesn't sort of line up in a plot sense and with the Orion story. But I get the feeling that all of these different threads were going to come together, had Kirby been able to, finish the series as he intended, to sort of let it run for, like 100 issues rather than 11 issues and some extras. There are no barriers to the Mobius chair of Metron, the knowledge seeker of New Genesis. No world or universe seems unreachable, and on one such distant place he is accompanied by a young scholar. Life on this primitive planet is savage and threatening, Metron. I am afraid. We are safe in the Mobius chair, Isak. They can never match its speed. You may study them at your ease. Those creatures below bear the image of man. Even so, they attack with the ferocity of the beasts. This planet is young and hostile, Isak. This is their time to fight for food and shelter. One day, when their bellies are full, they will look up and see us. Then they will think and dream. So this is, Kirby, talking about his sort of philosophy of, what is art, what is religion, and how did it develop? How did it develop on Earth? And so we have a world here which, seems different enough to be sort of an alien world, but it's an alien world where things are developing in a way not too dissimilar from how things developed on Earth. But I do wonder if there's a possible reading of this scene where it actually does specifically take place on prehistoric Earth, and that maybe these are sort of mammalian, early predecessors of man. But in any case, it's supposed to be sort of linked or similar to our own development, and that they're going to look up and see this. At some point, they're going to look up and see the Mobius chair, or they're going to see, some other new god flying by, and it's going to be, sort of ancient astronaut stuff. They're going to start coming up with their own mythology to describe what it was that they saw, flying in the air. Very cosmic stuff, really fun, and yet it's not like, somebody is, the Joker is poisoning the reservoir, or the Penguin, is trying to steal a diamond that's shaped like a bird. It's, cosmic stuff. It's not reducible to melodrama. And I could see an editor being like, oh yeah, this doesn't do anything for the story. This doesn't move the story forward at all. You got to take this out. But to me, that's probably my favorite part of the issue, is this segment. Now we shall take our leave. When we return again, there will be change. That will be a millennium to them. Time to them is not as time to us, is it? That's what makes me think, it's you might be able to, it's a stretch, but you might be able to interpret this as them, because the Mobius chair travels through time and space. So, maybe they went to visit prehistoric Earth, and then now they're coming back. Tell me, Metron, are we truly beyond time? Are we beyond death? My sensors indicate there is an answer in New Genesis. The hidden wonders of the Mobius chair spring to life. It fades with its occupants and reappears immediately in New Genesis. Hail, High Father! I return with young Isak from his studies to confirm a severe vibration from New Genesis. It shouldn't concern you, Cold One. The war to keep apocalypse from Earth goes badly. One of us has fallen. And I really like Highfather's costume here, this sort of, high-tech clerical garment. Highfather is like Odin, and how, Odin in the Thor comics, every time you see him, he's, dressed in a completely different suit of armor. But Highfather is like the cleric, he's the clerical version of Odin, where Odin is a warrior and is in a different kind of armor every time you see him. Highfather is in a different kind of choir robe every time you see him, with all of Kirby's high-tech flourishes. And on Earth, the battle grows hotter for the new gods, but the strangest, most terrifying confrontation is yet to come between the Orion Gang and the Deep Six. Stand back, mister. Where'd you come from? Seagrin. Edited, written, and drawn by Jack Kirby, and dipped with graphic style in ink by Vince Colletta. And so we have a new Jack Kirby superhero, new Genesis, new god introduced. But when we meet him, he's a corpse. It's like, the beginning of Sunset Boulevard. But you won't be seeing his adventures in flashback. The costume from this angle is pretty fascinating. And I like the colors. He's sort of like an underwater kind of guy, and he's got, Aquaman color scheme. And then we get kind of a shot from the front there with his helmet, and then his helmet gets removed when we go into close-up. So, when I worked on Superpowers, I was hoping to introduce Seagrin at some point, or Segan. His name changes from panel to panel, but, trying to sort of reverse engineer what this costume would look like. But he's, cool looking dude. Let him through, officer. He can identify the deceased. We're private investigators. That's right. His name is Lincoln. Mine is Orion. How about the name of the deceased, Orion? You say you know him? His name was Seagrin. He was a gentle warrior. He loved the deeps and all life in it. It was his element. Within it, he found harmony and living. And this is the end of it. Somewhere in these waters, he fought and died. How can you tell? We couldn't find any marks of violence on him. His enemies were not of the common variety, officer. The mother box in his belt, even she rests untouched. The what? A mother box? So yeah, he's kind of like a Submariner character, an Aquaman kind of underwater character. Jack Kirby's Fourth World is many things. It's its own creation, but I think also Jack Kirby was also trying to partly, recreate the universe that he had to play with over at Marvel, but sort of recreate them for, the 21st century, recreate them for the 70s, recreate them for the new millennium, sort of take those archetypes further. So this would be, his Submariner. There's, the Bug later on is kind of like his Spider-Man. There's, some proposal drawings for, sort of like his version of Thor that he was going to do at DC, which never materialized, where it was Sigurd instead of Thor at the center of his sort of Norse mythological cosmology. Jack Kirby's brother died around this time, and his brother was, he was a fan of the water and boating. I think he's, sort of, also the way Seagrin's death is kind of a very sudden, out of left field development. I feel like, Kirby's integrating his personal life experience into this. That his brother's death sort of came out of nowhere, and so he sort of is processing that through his art. And another thing in these Fourth World books, there's these moments where the way Kirby chooses to tell the story and the scenes he chooses to show and the scenes he chooses not to show, it makes the story sort of live in our minds a lot. So even though Kirby doesn't draw any of Seagrin's adventures, we get a sense of what he was doing, what he was going on. It's like a comic that we sort of create in our heads to fill in the gaps. And I'll point out some other moments like that in later issues. Not even Mother Box could protect him. The hidden enemy has found a way to thwart her. Now she can do nothing more but perform her last service for Seagrin. She takes him to the source. This becomes the MacGuffin for the issue, that the enemy has something that is jamming mother boxes, and so now the gods of New Genesis that are on Earth to fight this war, they're easy pickings. They're sitting ducks because their mother boxes can no longer help them track the presence of the enemy. And so now we have Sigrin's Viking funeral. It makes me think of Darth Vader's funeral pyre at the end of Return of the Jedi. Suddenly, the wind rises to a shriek. The black sky lashes the elements and roars a booming farewell. Orion, what's happening? Let's get out of here. Look out, the whole pier is going up. Crash. Ride the tempest, Sigrin. Enter the cosmic fury. The source will take you as a warrior who has given all. So we're seeing, the funeral rites of New Genesis, the funeral rites of the new gods. It's powerful stuff. They don't just die and that's it. They get carried to the source in cosmic flame. The flames are not of earth. In a moment they will vanish with Sigrin. The mother box in my service led us to this sad place. Now she leaves with us in silence. I hope you don't mind if I join her, Orion. This private eye is speechless. And behind them, leaping from the heart of the flames, a dark, blood-chilling figure silently swoops into the night sky. The Black Racer was introduced in the previous issue, and now we're getting, some continuation of that storyline. And then after this, we really won't see him until the series finale, apart from one backup story in one of the coming issues. Casey, look, up there. Do you see it? I don't see anything but that fire. Cough, cough. A mortal catches a glimpse of the Black Racer, but, the other guy, doesn't. So it's like, maybe I was just seeing things. But he is there, swift, silent, present at the finish of a man or a god. So this is, the Black Racer's function within the Pantheon is to be there to escort the dead of New Genesis to the source, which we'll learn more about in the next issue. And we get sort of, a similar thing we saw in the previous issue of the Black Racer going back to his civilian identity as Willie Walker. But the last witness to the tragedy is its evil architect, the seeker of total dominion over all living things, the ambitious, relentless, and destructive dark side, ruler of apocalypse.
Oh, how heroes love to flaunt their nobility in the face of death. Yet they know better than most that war is but the cold game of the butcher.
That's something that comes up again and again in Kirby's work. He talks about war and the butcher. And then there's a video of Kirby talking about some of his wartime experiences and talking about a guy, a Nazi running at him. And he said, he looked like a butcher. He looked like a butcher. And I do wonder about that, like, the cold game of the butcher. It's you're just, ultimately it's cutting up meat. And either you're the meat getting cut up or the other guy's the meat getting cut up. That's the sort of stuff that Kirby saw when he was in the military.
This little incident should keep Orion busy. The mother box will fail him, as it did Sigrin. Its signals can no longer compute the movements of those from Apocalypse.
We're setting up the stakes. We see that, even a god can die. In case you were wondering, and that whatever killed Sigrin is out there and lurking, and it could kill Orion too.
But if he surmounts this handicap, he will find the Deep Six waiting, and their trap that can kill a god.
Darkseid will not stay long. His interest is not the battle, but the war, and the scale of it is indeed a game for the gods. The power of it, cyclopean. So yeah, Darkseid skulks in the shadows. He's not interested in any kind of, hand-to-hand conflict. He's silently behind the scenes shaping events and wants to keep his hands as clean as possible. And as scary and formidable as he looks there, he also looks fearful. It's the paranoia a paranoid tyrant. Frank Miller drew a New Gods backup story for Walt Simonson's Orion series, and he does an homage to this panel. It is a pretty great one. Darkseid is the Sphinx. He's this silent character with a lot of secrets. And then this is kind of, this is what makes this issue not quite a home run for me. And again, these scenes are okay, but I'm just sort of bored to tears by Orion's little squad of humans. I understand their necessity, and I get the sense Kirby's bored by them too, but his instincts as a storyteller tells him that this is necessary. It's necessary to sort of ground the story and, have some people that we can relate to, a bunch of different ages. Young but cool Harvey Lockman. I'd love to know who specifically he was referencing for this, this look. And then Victor Lanza, the insurance man, seems, the closest to Kirby in age and temperament. And you have Dave Lincoln as this detective, and Claudia Shane, the secretary. Like I understand their function, and I do like it. It's just, I want this thing to be all cosmic fury all the time, and some of the issues it is. But again, we're feeling it out, and I would assume that Carmine Infantino and like that at DC. They were probably like, oh yeah, the problem with Jack Kirby's books is they're so weird. We want more of this stuff and less of this, crazy God stuff. Like tell me more about this insurance salesman. So Orion comes in, and the other thought I have, because one of the ongoing projects of my life has been working on a continuation of Jack Kirby's New Gods, continuing it in the spirit of what he created, and I've done a lot of work on it over the years. I did some work on it when I was over doing Superpowers for DC. I'd like to get a chance to do it at some point. Some version of it. Who knows? Maybe it'll never happen. That's just how it goes in the comics biz. But it is like sort of the one series where I'm like, yeah, I have some skin in the game. I really would like to. Follow up on these threads that Kirby lays down, and I feel like I'm the guy for the job. One of my thoughts was that it's the new gods. They're gods. What makes them gods exactly? And so my thought, and something that I've sort of developed, was this idea that these are the first of Orion's disciples, his worshipers, possibly that. These four would sort of be the beginning of what might become the Church of Orion. So I work on that and develop that. So I understand they need to be here, and this issue is where they get, they kind of get their big moment, and then they fade into the background, with the exception of Dave Lincoln and Claudia Shane for the remainder of the series. So Orion comes in. You will now think of my name only in its Earth term, Orion. This is important. Easy enough, they're pronounced alike. That's not what he means. What I mean is, when you speak of me, you must convey the image of an Earthman. I am Orion, your gang leader. What? Jack Kirby, he changes his, his name is Jacob Kurtzberg. He changes his name to an Irish-sounding name, the Jack Kirby. And so now Orion, who is, one of, Kirby's sort of, fiction suits, one of his characters who he identifies with, is doing the same thing, sort of taking his name and, changing it into an Irish name. What, are you asking us to play rough types? Shades of Bonnie and Clyde. Although our foes are the evil minions of Apocalypse, their leader, Darkseid, has organized a division of Earth criminals to serve him. Intergang, so they're our target. Motherbox computes that there is an instrument that shields all those of Apocalypse from her, but Intergang guards this instrument. Those of Intergang are Earthmen, perhaps vulnerable to Motherbox. Place your hands upon her. I want you to see what Motherbox sees in her effort to penetrate Intergang. It's a wild experience, like watching a movie with your mind. Only this movie is really happening. Orion doesn't want to blow his cover. If they find out, if the bad guys, if these Intergang guys find out that he's, a new Genesis guy, then that's going to set off a whole series of alarms. But if they think of him as Orion, a sort of Irish gangster, then they'll sort of deal with him in their normal way. They wouldn't bring that kind of problem to Darkseid. And so now they're sort of going on a trip. They're mentally traveling across the city to sort of like this sort of locale that you'd see in a Daredevil comic, the Q Club Billiards, and we have Snaky Doyle shooting pool with his buddies. Motherbox has pinpointed this man. Can you catch his thoughts? His name is Snaky Doyle. He works for Intergang. The same way that Orion's Motherbox can read thoughts and project them to his human friends, the Apocalypse crowd can do the same thing and sort of plumb the depths of their minds and pick up. So that's why they have to think of him as O''Ryan instead of Orion. I caught a strange word, jammer. Then Snaky is my man. The jammer is what I seek, but only your participation will cause him to lead me to it. We're listening. Now Snaky's walking away. So long, Snaky. See you guys tomorrow night. You better show up. We want to win our dough back. So we got this kind of, crime world that Kirby is familiar with from his childhood and young adulthood and, his neighborhood, but then also, familiar with as a creator. He's done, more than his share of crime comics in this milieu. But as Snaky reaches the shadows of the street corner, hey, what? Quiet. If you unzip your lip, I'll plug you. Feel that? It's a rod. If you make me nervous, it's gonna go off into your skull. What is this, a holdup? Okay, frisk me and blow, you crumb. But you'll be sorry. Stow it. What's this in your pocket? It's making noises. Sounds like Intergang's on the other end of this gadget calling you. Answer it. How do you know about Intergang? Come in, Snaky. Answer it. This is Snaky. What's up? Report to the Seashore Base. It's your turn to babysit with the jammer. Okay, take off and tell Intergang to stay out of this territory. The Orion mob has taken over. In fact, we got enough brains and muscle to put you bums out of business. When Snaky is out of earshot, you saw and heard, Orion. Snaky's unit controls a jammer. Yes, now we must follow him, you and the others in your car, and I shall be above, hidden from sight, astride the astroglider. Like father, like son, Darkseid is using these human proxies, these criminals to do his work on Earth as he stays safely in the shadows. Orion is doing the same thing, and so this is a really beautiful little drawing here, very atmospheric of this sort of house by the water. Again, we're in sort of Frank Miller Sin City territory. I could see, you take the superhero stuff, you take Orion and Darkseid out of the equation. This could be a nice little Sin City yarn. An hour later, on a little-used seacoast road, a car rolls to a stop next to an old mansion which has seen better days. Armed guards immediately move menacingly toward the driver. I like how the progression of the story from issue to issue in New Gods, it really feels like Kirby has a plan, and it's sort of unfolding and unrolling it in a very satisfying way. You can't stop here, miss. You better move on. Sorry, fellas, my car is stalled. Mind if I go inside the house and phone the local mechanic? The house is out of bounds, chick. Think of something else. Well, I can't leave until I can start this car, can I? Okay, we'll push the heap while you try feeding it some gas. You boys are sweet to help out this way. Just step on the gas, lady, and get her rolling. We're lucky this is one of those small jobs. I'll give it the gas, all right, the kind Orion whipped up for this occasion. Now to slowly close the window. I hope these nasties don't notice it. Yeah, if you're doing like the New Gods TV series, these are the scenes that, aren't going to break the budget. And so we got this, cool little mechanism on the steering wheel as she rolls up the window. Claudia's finger closes upon an intricate mechanism attached to the steering wheel. Then, zoosh! The sleep vapors released from the capsules in the car's exhaust pipe immediately do their work. They'll be out for hours. It's time for my gang to show up now. I let them off a short distance down the road to get here under cover of the shrubbery. So now the rest of the crew comes out of the woods, and they all, make their way inside the house. Your job is up there, Lanza. You don't have to play Little Caesar, just his smart business manager, okay? I still don't know. You'll do it. Once the chips are down, the important thing is to uncover that jammer for Orion. I know that Orion is somewhere near, but I'd feel better if I could see him. Well, here goes. I like this idea of Orion as sort of like this guardian angel. He's like hovering unseen somewhere behind the scenes. Like we know he's somewhere, like a god or whatever. We know he's somewhere, but it would be nice if we could see some, concrete evidence of his presence. But we'll try to continue on and do the things we need to do, with just the faith that he's there. Harumph, umph. Come on in, Orion. We've been expecting you. Seeing that our boy Snaky practically gave you a roadmap. So they think Lanza is Orion. We figured our boys might not be able to stop you. So come in, let's talk. Yeah, we're all in the same bag, excepting we're running a kinda expensive service that would frighten you stiffs clear to Mars. Country boy, listen, I admit I panicked. I didn't think they'd follow me here. I came here to warn you. I was trying to help. Shut up, Snaky. You like to fish, Orion? I'm a fly-casting champ myself. Watch me hook that trigger. You're getting it, country boy. In another second, that dum-dum will get paid off for thinking too hard. Only trouble is that Snaky didn't think hard enough. That's why we suddenly got you on our backs, Orion. But I'm not... So, country boy is he's here almost sort of as a crossover with In the Days of the Mob. Country Boy is one of the mobsters in the Days of the Mob, and this is I'm surprised they don't use this issue to promote In the Days of the Mob, and I sort of see Kirby's whole universe at work here. What he imagined, that you'd have a crime book like In the Days of the Mob, and it would cross over with his sort of superhero god epic. You can see the vision that Kirby had and why he was sort of disappointed when DC didn't sort of share that vision with him. And I like this setup. Snaky's in trouble for leading them here, and Country Boy's gonna hook the trigger of the gun on his fishing line. Look at Orion. He turned green. Didn't you ever see a guy get it before? Snaky ain't dead, but he is stiff, paralyzed. And our guns can get spookier than that. Because this is a Comics Code comic, Kirby, has to have that scene be a, paralyzer gun instead of a regular gun. So Snaky Doyle's okay. But I get the feeling that if not for the code, Snaky would be history. He's also trying to demonstrate that they have unconventional weaponry that they've gotten from the Apocalypse crowd. But I could picture, the thing sort of, disintegrating Snaky or putting a big hole in him or something, some kind of, high-tech gun. The paralysis gun is, sort of like a sci-fi concept, but I feel like a death ray, that it's just the sort of limitations of working within the Comics Code. You know why? Because we're big. We're no ordinary rackets outfit like you bums. Who do you think you're playing with? That's what I'm here to find out. I'm Lanza. I make Orion's deals. We know about Intergang, but not enough. Frankly, what I've seen so far, I wouldn't spend a penny on. I love Victor Lanza's acting here. He's really playing the part and getting into it. I like it. Why, you fat old blowhard. Seeing that you're not going to get out of here alive, I'll give you another look. A fast look at the real Intergang. I like this. He has all his fish on the wall, his Billy Big Mouth bass, and he turns one of them, and it opens up this panel to, this big high-tech mechanism. How about this, Fink? Some toy, eh? Well, this is only a small part of our inventory. The party we deal with can take this thing apart and set it up again in minutes. That's organization and power, man. So this is why Orion stayed hidden, because if they got wind that he was coming near, they'd be able to, break down this stuff and move it to another place in minutes. He had to sort of stay out of the way until it was the right moment. They'll never get the chance now. The masquerade has served its purpose. I found your jammer. Yow! I am Orion of New Genesis, and my power shall not be blunted by your master's infernal machines. Now I shall face the killers of Segan on more even terms. See, he was Seagrin before he's Segan now. Not if I get you first, mister. Sorry to spoil your aim. So if, Lanza's bravery in sort of, keeping up this bluff wasn't enough to show what he's made of, he gets to play the hero and throws a little box, maybe a wooden cigar box at this bad guy. So there ain't any Orion gang? I was up against the new Genesis crowd? Yeah, if you had suspected that, the jammer would have been dismantled and moved to a safer spot. You were just marvelous, Mr. Lanza. How to play folk guitar. So now we're getting the setup for the next issue, which is, one of the all-time greats. And now, beyond the ruined jammer lies the greater evil of the Deep Six. So we've pierced through this kind of, workaday layer of reality of this mafia setup, and now we're getting into this, crazy sci-fi world that lies beneath the surface. Mother Box is seeking them without hindrance now. The jammer hid this place and its operation from her, but she did find Snaky Doyle, who led us here. Nothing can stop her now. She has found Slig, leader of the Deep Six. And as Mother Box weaves a shield of air molecules about Orion, he glides through a valve lock into the depths of the sea. Hail, Orion! You are welcome to the world of the Deep Six, as was Seagrin. Slig, Dog of Apocalypse. So we're going to get a sense of, what happened to Seagrin. The same sort of trap that Seagrin fell into. Now it's Orion's turn. Careful with your words, hero. The Deep Six rule here. Now, in the next issue, we're going to get a better look at Slig of the Deep Six. We get a nice close-up of him here, but he's sort of just, colored pink. In these DC books, it was kind of like, when in doubt, color the character pink. There's a number of characters like that. The id is colored pink. Much better, more detailed color scheme where the different parts of his helmet and his face are differentiated in the next issue. I feel like this has been corrected in future reprints, although maybe not quite fully. I'll have to double check. We can mutate organic sea life so it does our bidding. Here's the reprint, and you can see they've corrected the coloring. Still not perfect, not super impressive. I would like that part to be colored blue. That part that's, of his helmet. There's a little more subtlety they could bring to it. Maybe next time they'll get it just right. I'm tough to please. I mean, this New God stuff. This is where I wear my fan hat. Careful with your words, hero. The Deep Six rule here. We can mutate organic sea life so it does our bidding. In my collecting, I read the next issue, issue 5, before I ever read this. So I saw the potential and the destruction that the Deep Six are capable of. So, when I later read this story, this scene does seem very ominous. I wonder how it would read, if you're sort of reading these in order at the time for the first time and just sort of see this, pink amorphous monster, saying all this stuff. But again, works for me. I'd also like to see this scene, all this circuitry and stuff, all this underwater stuff, the tendrils of this mutated sea life, what it would look like in Kirby's original pencils, if there's maybe some interesting detail that we're lacking here. A mass of harmless sea organisms suddenly grow monstrous tendrils which enmesh Orion in a tight, crushing grip. Marshalling his great strength, Orion fights the trap of living steel to reach the unit that houses the dreaded Astroforce. Then, pow! Weakened but free, Orion battles to regain his senses. So I wonder, was it this, mesh, these tendrils that killed Seagrin? But Seagrin, there was no mark on him. He was dead, but his mother box was intact. His body was intact. He was just, he was killed some other way. So I doubt it was crushed by tendrils. I think that would have, you would have seen signs of that. But what he sees when he wheels to attack is the shocking, mind-shattering threat which the Deep Six have kept secret. What does Orion face? It has destroyed a god and threatens the entire Earth. Don't miss. Spawn. So that's the thing that killed Seagrin. And it's called Spawn. This is 20 years before Todd McFarlane came up with his character Spawn. And maybe that's what killed Seagrin. Maybe it was it was Todd McFarlane's Spawn, and he used some kind of satanic power to kill him without leaving a mark. But yeah, next issue we'll find out what Jack Kirby's Spawn is. Doesn't by the time when I read this series, Spawn was already out. I was reading these in the 90s, so it is kind of funny. Like when I saw that, I'm like, Spawn, okay. I mean, it's a great word, a great name for a character, as Jack Kirby and Todd McFarlane are both well aware. I wonder how it might have registered back in the 70s, but it certainly gets your attention, reading it in the 90s like I did. Next issue is the beginning of what in my mind is Jack Kirby's peak and comics peak. This story is 22 pages. It's a page shorter than the previous issue, but we do get some pinups. This is Light Ray, lighthearted and brimming with personable qualities. He is the friendliest of the new gods. But when battle comes, he is a formidable foe. In the clash between New Genesis and Dread Apocalypse, Light Ray turns the power of light into a weapon of astounding magnitude. Follow his exploits. As goes Orion, so goes Light Ray, into domains where even gods are subject to the whims of grim destiny. I think when Kirby created the New Gods, I think, Light Ray, I think, was sort of based on Kirby's brother, and sort of the relationship between Light Ray and Orion is sort of a brotherly relationship. When Kirby's brother died, I think it might have been a little too much to kill off Light Ray that early. Maybe he even considered it, but then sort of came up with Seagrin to fulfill that role. So then now we get the reprints, and this stuff's great. You get some old Golden Age stuff, but when I read an issue of New Gods, I'm not in a Golden Age mood. I'm not in a Manhunter mood. So I kind of isn't this interesting? More evidence of Jack Kirby's role as one of the co-creators of Spider-Man. We have 20 years before Spider-Man fought the Vulture, Manhunter fights the Buzzard. Again, this stuff's fun. It's like a window to another era. It also gives some context to Kirby's work. His sort of superheroes with their gang of kids that sort of back him up. It isn't too far off from Orion and his mob. But again, I want to find out more about New Genesis. God damn it! Now this, the Light Ray pinup, it's nice, but this Calabac one is just awesome. Love that costume, his proportions, his costume. Like this is the image of Calabac that they use for the Superman animated series. It's just great. It's just really phenomenal. And then with his sort of his prisoners and stuff, it's like. It's a nice glimpse, of a little more of Kirby's world that he's creating. A mini scene. In the realm of dark side of apocalypse, where all things serve the cause of destruction, there is none so savage as Calabac the Cruel. His is a never-ending battle with the new gods for the fate of mankind. And here he is looking in a hand mirror, a sort of high-tech hand mirror with a little electronic thingy on the bottom. This is a face to fear. Someday, Calabac, you may supplant Darkseid himself. And Calabac, like when he appears in issue 1 of the New Gods, he's just kind of like hanging out in his boxer shorts. You just kind of caught him at the wrong moment. He's in the middle of watching TV, having some pizza, drinking some beer. But here he is in his like full, sort of Kirby. High-tech costume, with this cool sash and this massive laser gun. Like, they still haven't done the toy that looks like this. And then we get another, Simon and Kirby old school comic. Again, like, Jack Kirby is doing state-of-the-art comics that are as fresh today as they were in the 70s. And then, you're kind of packaging this dreck, this trash with it. It's, you can see why a kid would be like, why am I paying 25 cents? Why am I paying an extra 10 cents for a bunch of, like, nonsense, bunch of bullshit. So there you have it. Brace yourself. It's from this point onward, things are gonna be getting awesome. So brace yourself, get ready. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design. And this has been New Gods Sunday School.